Hello indie game fans, it is time for another look at some great upcoming pixel art indie games, but do check out the previous videos if you have not. But we shall start with Lords of Exile. When I came to know of this game, there was no doubt in my mind that it had a place on the channel, since this is an action platformer that is very reminiscent of classic Castlevania and perhaps shares one too many things in common with Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Regardless, play as a cursed knight who must redeem himself and save the land with magic and good old sword swinging action. Absolutely love the visuals, and this is currently fully funded on Kickstarter, but perhaps hop on to support the stretch goals. I've recently talked about my love of puzzle games, and one which caught my eye is AKURRA, also currently on Kickstarter but has been fully funded. This has you exploring an archipelago filled with secrets, pushing blocks, collecting items, and riding sea turtles in order to discover the mysteries. It cites Chip's Challenge, Star Tropics, and Zelda as inspirations, with quite a classic looking art style that would fit in right on the Game Boy Advance. Based on early previews, the difficulty ramp is quite gradual, but things do get pretty challenging, so this issues a challenge to all puzzle game fans to get 100% completion. One of the beauties of pixel art is how it can be used so effectively, especially when minimalism is involved, and COLT Canyon is a standout example here. A roguelite twin-stick shooter, go after the outlaws who kidnapped your partner in this Wild West adventure. The character and enemies are comprised solely of a single color, but the use of light and shadow and the impressively detailed environments and trees do make this game look very good. I'm curious about the roguelite elements, so look out for this later this year. The one thing which really stood out to me about Chaos Galaxy is the character portraits, and is a turn-based galactic strategy title where you control a fleet of warships and mechs and must use these to defeat your enemies. It is probably no surprise that this developer cites Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Advance Wars as inspirations, reflected in the characters and gameplay respectively, but with 14 factions, 61 commanders, and hundreds of different types of units, this one will please strategy game fans. Back to the old school with Savage Halloween, a run and gun platformer starring 3 playable characters, a pumpkin farmer, a werewolf and a vampire, the daughter of the so-called main villain of the game. During Halloween, the portal to the afterlife opens up and monsters are free to roam and party, but at the end of that special day, the evil vampire closed the portal before the monsters could get back, since the party cannot stop. As such, platform and shoot your way through hordes of baddies in a bid to get home. Another one which knocks it out of the park in terms of the art, what I'm most looking forward to in this are the boss fights, and while it says 2020 as a tentative window, maybe it would be released during the season in October. If you were not swayed by the opening 10 seconds of this trailer, I don't know what to say to you, since Rest of the World Football Story is a sports-focused live sim title, where on top of playing football in local matches against the neighborhood kids, you do also have free reign over the city, helping the townsfolk in side missions, helping to fix the lights in your house, and so on. You do also need to train and improve at football, possibly done through minigames, and there are even 4 playable characters with their own unique story arcs. Obviously, I hope that the football part of the game is great. With this even supporting cross-platform online multiplayer, it seems to be quite the ambitious sports-based simulation game. Doesn't hurt that the pixel art is mind-blowingly gorgeous, with so much detail especially in the environments, and even if you're not a fan of football, this one looks very promising indeed. This one's more on the style aspect, since JETBOARD JOUST, SCOURGE of the Mutants is an arcade shoot 'em up with roguelite elements, where the developers cite Defender, Resogun, and Enter the Gungeon as inspirations. The JETBOARD looks like a lot of fun, and you are even able to jump off it during your combos. I do like the enemy designs in this, with impressive use of a limited color palette as well, so one to get for a great arcade type experience.
You've been working on a game for as long as you can remember. Trapped in a never-ending loop, while the world moves on without you. As you're slowly suffocated by debt and crushed by reality. You begin to wonder why you started this project in the first place.
I remember a time when video games were everything to me. When they saved me. Maybe things were different back then. Maybe it was a simpler time. But the memories I have of adventures, of friendships, of people coming together, I want to keep them alive. And I want to make sure they're passed on to the next generation.
I recently showcased the prologue demo for One Dreamer and was amazed by the beauty of the pixel art and lighting in this, playing as a burnt-out indie game developer working on his debut title. Rediscover your love for video games while fixing bugs in your code in the form of simplified puzzles with what seems to be a real heartwarming tale. The combination of the rising music and the beauty of some of the landscapes shown in the trailer really gave me chills, since it is something that I do identify with in the struggle, so I sincerely wish this developer all the best.
And you wake up because you remember. You have a game to finish.
The horizontal shoot-'em-up is one of my favorites, so Rick Henderson seems like a neat one to keep an eye on. This is a self-titled infinite shooter, which loops around when you beat it, but there are different factions, upgrades and perks, boss variants and so on. I love the art of the nebula shown off, which, combined with the design of the ships and enemies, is a pretty sight to behold.
Two evenings, so
Much like World of Horror or Death Crown previously featured in similar videos like this, my work is not yet done as a 1-bit pixel art title, which means black and white, but the amount of detail and how light and shadow are conveyed is absolutely remarkable. Now this self-describes as a pilgrimage simulator, where you play as the last surviving Inquisitor who must search for a mysterious signal within the ever-changing landscape of something known as the Reach. It is a survival game with mechanics based on authentic bushcraft and land navigation techniques, but tries to capture the physical and psychological nature of being alone in an oppressive, humid forest. The narrative seems like the main draw, but if you have taken a look at World of Horror, a similar look and is that same sort of creepy. A beautiful and challenging looking platformer is Sir Love. Who must dodge spikes, saw blades and enemies in order to get to his very Rapunzel-like love of his life. What really strikes me is the pixel art, similar to something that Henk Niebok might make, with much care and detail going into simple things like grass. The platforming looks suitably challenging, and with a timer constantly on screen, you know that this is built for speed running. There are secrets to uncover, with a whimsical story as well, so I hope that the platforming controls are tight enough when we do get hands-on. Monorail Stories is a narrative adventure game about our two protagonists who don't know each other but happen to take the same monorail each day. I love the semi-fantastic setting of this monorail between islands, and of course, the clouds and the skylines get me again. This is not so puzzle focused and is more on conversations and decisions, but another beautiful one to look forward to. Back to some good old action with the lane-based RTS Iron Vulture. This one was another no-brainer to showcase and has you controlling troops and activating abilities in order to stop waves of mutant creatures. While theoretically lane-based, your units are free to move around with quite the amount of micro needed, since you control the same 6 characters at all times. The art and animation is on point, especially the boss creature shown off at the end of the trailer, so get hyped for this. This game self-describes as a post-noir point-and-click exploration game where you explore the industrial swamplands and the decaying suburbs of South Louisiana, searching for your missing brother while sorting out your dead mother's estate. You are accompanied by a fugitive security cyborg that your mother harbored, so some futuristic elements here, but my god, just look at the art. This uses dots very interestingly, so not just smooth gradients all around, which does make the art pop. Clan N is an arcade brawler that reminds me of games like Gauntlet or Hammerwatch, in that it supports up to 4 players and plays like an action-adventure title. Wonderful art with some very good-looking bosses and environments. There also appears to be platforming sections and minigames, capturing the feel of something like Castle Crashers, and should be another good one. If you are a 90s kid, there's a chance that you may have come across the Lemmings video game series, where you need to lead a bunch of the creatures, sacrificing some if necessary, in order to get the targeted number of them across the finish line. In a similar way, God's Gift aims to do the same, only with cosmic horror overtones and a character avatar that you control. Mutate your cult followers by giving them God's Gift, using these to clear your way through the level, all in a bid to save the realm of the old gods from a new threat. While a little bit on the simpler side in terms of the art, it nonetheless works, with some cleverly designed puzzles and a little bit of a macabre theme. According to their Kickstarter page, it should have been out by now, but unfortunately delays exist, so hopefully it will be out later this year. When I came to know of FICTIONSPHERE, the self-described platformer beat-em-up, what immediately came to mind was the Mega Man ZX series, with the way the entire game looked, the camera angles, sprites, and so on. Our hero has both ranged and melee options, with shooting gallery type gameplay mixed in with the side-scrolling action. There are upgrades, unlocks and leveling, with what seems to be quite a large number of skills and abilities, and even a fighting game style combo counter. The platforming and exploration is also a factor since it is not linear, with side quest events, secret areas, alternate paths, and more. Action looks super fun, but the one highlight has to be the detailed sprites, especially in the boss designs, so really looking forward to this as well. This one is a long time coming since A Year in the Trees is a survival game that has been in development since at least 2017 with no firm date as of yet. Journey to an abandoned cabin deep within the mysterious woods whose entrance only appears once every year. While I am not the biggest fan of the sword and sorcery style elongated characters, the environments and trees in this are absolutely wonderful, so detailed and so beautiful. As would be expected for a wilderness survival game, there are different seasons to live through, with winter being especially pretty, and there is clever use of lighting as well. While there are animals that you can hunt, there appears to be a fantasy element as well, with magic spells, witches, and other fantastical creatures, so quite the intriguing setup. This developer still appears to be working on this, but no pressure from me, just very interested to check it out when it's done. Once more onto the old school breach with Street Cleaner the video game. This looks like one part Hotline Miami and one part Cyber Shadow, so if you know me, I'm all in on this. Go on the quest to wipe out criminals from the city, armed only with a gun and a baseball bat. Very retro but impressively detailed in the environments, this would have fit right in on the NES and does give off some very cool vibes. The titular street cleaner is also a California-based musician who is, of course, contributing to the music in this game, so it should be another good one. I love me a good RPG, so ELPHAME caught my eye with some very unique character portraits. This has a programming puzzle battle system which could be interesting, with a degree of procedural generation in the world layout. Looks like a pretty neat, smaller title, with combos playing a huge part, and I do like the sprites in combat as well. This one is for survival horror fans, since The Machine That Breathes has you playing as an advanced AI mind who awakens to find that you are now in a cyborg body in a mysterious, post-apocalyptic underground city. Scavenge for resources and fight off enemies, with puzzles and a limited inventory to contend with. Seems pretty creepy, so one for horror game fans. The developers of this game had the guts to cite Toriyama in the game's description, so hopefully Dragon Blazers lives up to that. This is a melee-focused action platformer where you play as powerful warriors fighting against an evil cyber ninja army threat. Simple setup and looks fun. Minimalism can be done very well with pixel art, and another title which does this extremely well is Cursed Gem, a pure platformer with a focus on avoiding hazards and collecting gems, which looks delightfully simple and pleasant. If you have a love for arcade classics, then Terror of HEMASAURUS will immediately be familiar, with gameplay aping that of Rampage, and also seems to be a cheeky reference to Godzilla as well. Smash up the city, eat people and fight off the military, all on your way to get the high score. The monsters in this look really cute, despite the theme of death and destruction, and even supports up to 4 players. Not much detail is given on the gameplay structure, but I would imagine multiple cities and escalating difficulty of enemies, so I'll let you know when more gets revealed. Geese are pretty hot right now, so Mighty Goose is one to check out. A run and gun platformer that is inspired and certainly looks like Metal Slug and Contra. Play as a robotically enhanced goose and blast your way through enemies. The action looks fun, with great looking robot designs as well, so let loose the goose, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos, and I will see you after the jump.